over and over and over again. And that idea is that somehow there's something defunct and wrong with African Americans just because our trauma is different than your trauma. And as I was editing this video, I realized, listen, the only reason why your black ass would be able to come over to America and be able to do anything is because of the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the fighting, and the dedication of African Americans who on this soil changed this land. African Americans are the ones who got this country integrated. Let me explain something to you. White people in this country did not give us anything. We have had to take. And this is why you see what is going on in the news and the media right now. We took in the 1960s what it is that we had. We took their lynchings, their terrorizing, their burning down of our neighborhoods, and we continue to rebuild and rebuild and revisit and retwist and re-rise up what it is that we have done in this country. And the only reason why anybody can bring their black ass over here from another mother effing country is because of what black Americans have done on this land. And I'm saying this as a person who is bicultural, whose father is not American, doggone it. My father is an immigrant, and he was able to come over to this country and do something in this country because of the black people who fought, who died, who bled, who were lynched on this land. So don't sit your black ass over there in some other goddamn country talking about what you would do in America. The only reason why your black ass could even get the F over here is because of what we have done. Doggone it. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. The reason why people are able to get onto the radios in America is because what black Americans have done, the culture that we have created with nothing. Nothing. We have been given nothing. Everything that we have in this country, we have because we have taken. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. So don't sit your black ass over there in your country where you're not doing what you need to do with your government. If anything, you should feel inspired by African Americans, inspired to pick up your picket sign and take your ass off your seat and go out there in the streets and protest in your damn land. Listen to what it is that I'm saying, because I was over there in Nigeria. I walked the streets of Lagos, Abuja, and where was it that I was? It was not Owerri. I was in, I'll just say Igbo land. I walked the streets and I saw what it was and I saw what it was like. And I talked to Nigerians, and part of the issue is that there is a docility that exists inside of the average Nigerian that I spoke to. Had a complacency and a docility that exists in there when it comes to their government. And then, right? The nerve of anyone to suggest that because of the type of trauma that you experience in your country, the type of brainwashing that you exist in your country is different than the type of trauma and brainwashing that we have existed in this country, that somehow that makes you better? No. Part of the reason that Nigeria looks the way that it is right now is because Europeans ran roughshod over that country. Europeans ran roughshod over Nigeria. Took down your symbols and put up their own, implanted you with their religion, have you worshiping white skin. And then after they sucked and siphoned from the country enough, then they started implanting the leaders that they wanted, who would fulfill their white supremacist agenda. And so now you have government officials who don't give a good goddamn about the average Nigerian, because they take their money and they put their money abroad and they leave you there without lights 24 hours a goddamn day. Meanwhile, they got lights. I've been to Banana Island. I see what rich Nigerians live like. Speaking of which, if I were to come to Nigeria with my American mindset, I would be rich in Nigeria. because I'm not from Nigeria and I don't have the same type of indoctrination that Nigerians have. So when you start trying to say that you will come over to America and do all this, that, and bravo, because you've been trained in a different way. If I went to listen, I was in Nigeria 3 weeks before I made it over to Banana Island. And when I spoke to one of my Nigerian friends, I didn't realize how difficult of a thing that is for the average Nigerian. So don't sit there and start talking about how you would do so much different. If anything, this is the time right now that we need to come together. Instead of being in your colonial programming and mindset, instead of that, release those shackles. Release those shackles and realize that what African Americans are doing and have done in this country is remarkable. It is revolutionary. We have changed this world, goddammit, because if it wasn't for African Americans, black people would still be in the goddamn zoo. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. Listen, we are all African. My ancestors were kidnapped Nigerians and kidnapped Ghanaians. We are all African, all of us. So don't be jealous because our ancestors were stolen and yours were left back there. Did you want to go through this here? Did you want to? Did you want to go? Listen, by the time slavery on this soil ended, there were 600,000 rape babies on this land. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. 600,000. That doesn't even count the amount of children that were fed to alligators. It doesn't count the amount of children from backbreaking work who were never born. 600,000 more. You want to know how many rapes have to exist for 600,000 of those to result in a pregnancy? And then under those harsh conditions for it to result in the birth of a baby. You want to know how many rapes had to take place? Listen, don't be jealous because of what it is that we have done. I have a blue passport because my family was born on this God-forsaken land. And I am going to get everything that is due by my birthright of this nation, me. But I'm not going to discount the experience of another person who is more mentally enslaved than I am. I speak about this all the time. And you all know, listen, I love my Nigerian people. I do. Like I said, I'm genetically Nigerian. You look at my father, you see an Igbo man. However, my father was not born and raised on this funky land. He was not born and raised in the mental slavery, the drudgeons thereof that have enslaved mentally the people who are on this land. Some of them. Because many of them have risen to be able to get us the level of human rights that we have now. And still, every 20 to 30 hours, a black person is murdered by the police in this country. And then you see we got effing vigilantes out there killing black people too. Karens harassing us when we just try to live. We got your bubbas and your rednecks hunting us down when we try to jog and exercise. We got hooded men who came by, poured gasoline on the things that we have built and burnt them to the ground. And we got more hooded men who put on badges every day, gavels in their hand, scalpels in their fingers, and steering wheels in their palms. We have policymakers in this country whose forefathers wore hoods and them who still have the hooded heart. And when I say hooded, I'm talking about the Klan, baby. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. So no, don't sit over there in some foreign land talking about what it is that you would do in America, because if you were born on this land entrenched in the funk and the foulness that exists on this land, you would be just as mentally enslaved, just as mentally entrained as the people who are here. So don't think that because your trauma is different than ours, that there's something better about your trauma. Because if anything, just the mere fact that you even dream, that you salivate of going to another land, shows and tells that there's something going on yours that needs to be fixed. So rather than going off and talking about all of the things that you would do in America, please do them in Nigeria. Fix your government. Rise up. Do whatever it is that you need to do on your land. It's time that we came together, and it's like there's so many people out there who are puppets and arbiters for white supremacy, puppeting racist ideals and racist ideas that they've been taught by the supremacist regime. And part of the issue...
I understand you, my sister, because I tried to understand the Black history, which is not something that's supposed to be joked about. But for the Black people that are living in Africa, we know that Africa was having their own colonialism that has started to fade in 1960 when Ghana gained independence, Nigeria followed, and the rest of the continent followed. But if I have to compare with the Black history is kind of more darker. It's too dark. Black American, they went through a lot. And the wish is for African American to find healing in what they went through. Because it's not only the generation of the slave that were taken from West Africa through the Atlantic Ocean to America, but also their descendants, the children that were born in slave, out of slave, the generation after generation, they constantly experiencing discriminations. They were denied their right, their recognitions, and many others. Yeah, and for a Black person that is living in Africa, that you wish to go to Europe or America without the recognitions of the Black Americans that are living that side, I think is hypocrisy, because if we understand history so well, these people, they were constantly demonstrating, protesting, just to be given their right. The revolutionary of African leaders, when they started this revolutionary, they were inspired by the Black American that they were working in the ocean, in the ship, in the fishing industry. And so that's how they came to learn about the African American that went through slave, their struggle to be recognized in America. And obviously, the brave African men took up this inspiration. The revolutionary in Africa started. And that's how I understand history. As an African person that is living in the continent, I should be embracing my staying in the continent. Yeah, so this is a kind of a very emotional video because it's so touching to see the sister talking like this. We are taking things for granted as Africans that are living on the continent. The slavery was not easy. And she put out everything there. people, they were raped. Baby, they were fed to alligators. Lynching was even a kind of a law at one point. And they passed through a lot. They passed through a lot. The slave managed to escape the plantations. Some manage, but they have to walk through miles. Imagine the slave, they were escaping from the plantation. And how do they escape? From the field. So they have to go through bushes, grass, sleeping on the tree until they find a safe place. They have to march on to wherever state that they wish to go. The slave, they have to walk on foot, escaping this slavery. And once they are caught, they know the story. So there were no respect when it's come to black person in United States of America until 1963. Because in 1964 is when the state government passed the law of civil rights, where the black people, they were allowed to start crossing by, walking the same street, eating in the same restaurant, going to the same school. That law was passed in 1964. Yeah, it's not that long to say that the black people, they were enjoying in America. They didn't. Because even though that law was passed, so things, they will start to move slowly. Slowly. The two communities, they need to accept one another. White people, they have to start accepting living with the black people or walking on the same street. And mind you that after they escaped from the plantation, then they were segregated according to their race. And they have their road, their restaurant, their shop where to shop. And if you were seen crossing by just by the 10 where you were supposed to go, and you made a mistake, and the white folks saw you, you know the consequence. Yeah, because the slogan was that segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. And the black people, they are the one that built America in a harsh condition. They managed to build that country. Their rights were not granted. Mind you that when their rights were not given because of the nature of where they came from, just black people that were sold off, coming this side, not civilized, no education, they don't know how to read. The mere job that they were doing is just domestications. How can you give rights to such people? But the black American, they did not sit back fold their arms and watch. They started to demonstrate. Because I understand that there is a lady in 18 something in the Wales. Ada taught herself how to read. Challenged herself, went to school, and he became somebody. Ida Wells started to fight for the plight of the black communities in 80 something, before the Martin Luther King came, and many others that were coming in between there. It's a lady that we are talking about that started in 1880 something. All those years, they have been fighting for their civil rights. And it only came about in 1964, where the racial civil right was passed, and gradually things they started moving. The violence, the lynching, the rape that the black Americans they were facing in their country. And up to now, someone can just call a police and say, I saw a black person in this restaurant eating. Then they call the police. And obviously the police will believe the white person. So that stereotype that attached to the black person is still there. If the racial civil rights was passed in 1964, but up to now, the black people, they are being harassed just by the walking by in the street, eating in the restaurant. They are being harassed in the country that they fought for, in the country that they were born in, American citizen. But the problem is just the color. The color. And again, they have trusted the black people to work for them. Yeah, and this mindset needs to be changed when it comes to African people that are living in Africa. Someone talking about when British came to Kenya, they were asked about one thing that they are proud of when it's come to Kenya. And what are the Kenyans? If someone may ask, what are the Kenyans proud of when it's come to British invaded their country? And this is the stereotype of a white person making sure that they brainwashed the African people just by the way of speaking English. They remove their heritage, their African name, they were stripped off, and anything that have to do with Africa. It's like they have to rebirth again in USA. And this is exactly the same way when the British came to Africa, because we are talking of Kenya now, that they are proud of leaving Kenya, of leaving Kenyans speaking English. That's what they are proud of. In Africa, remove even the language. But some of the African, they were smart enough. They were smart enough to say, I cannot abandon my language. This is my culture, this is my root, and this is how I speak. I cannot adapt your language. So these are the brainwashed when it comes to ignorant Africans. Yeah, when you see a black American speaking that English, we are not thinking, how did they end up there? Obviously, the accent will be there. But how do you feel for a white person telling you, that is my language that you are speaking right now? So we consume too much of the Western. Our names, the language, even the pop cultures that are accusing the American to have is also here in Africa. So it's also here in Africa. So African Americans, when they are coming to Africa, it's because they want to trace their roots. They are escaping that police brutality. They are escaping that discrimination because they feel like and they understand that their common enemy is not black to black, but their common enemy is their slave master. That's why they are coming to Africa. Why African wanted to go to Europe or to America? Because they are saying, well, if we are in America, this is what we are going to do. We are going to be richer because you African American that are living on that side, you are lazy. How can you call people lazy that took their sweat, their pain to build those countries? Because all those countries, they were built by the slave. And we know the color of the slave is black people. So the African countries, they are not working because of this conniving with the Western countries. When they are coming to Africa, it's because of the natural resources. Investors. But they will make sure the money that is generated from their investment in the country, they will end up in the pocket of some. Because they are also having their scheme there. The International Monetary Fund that need to be issuing money to countries in the form of a capital project. But the African countries, they are making money through their natural resources. That should be enough to build the country and the continent. But no, or that's not how they do business. But they will tell the African leader to go back, to go and borrow money at their financial institution, so that the African leaders can build their country. And now we find a lot of black people that are moving out to the third world, looking for green pastures, following those natural resources. Because for Africa, they export the raw material. Then the whole finished product will be done on that side. And that's when now our African sisters and brothers, they are going that side. So if we understand this logic, if we understand these manipulations, we cannot bow down to Western countries. But the West, they need to respect us. The solution here is only that the African people that are living in the continent, all what they need to do is just to ask for an accountability from their leaders. Whether it's the main party or whether it's the opposition, but not to point finger to say, this opposition is like this, the ruling party is like this. These things of hatred shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there. I have seen this video 3 weeks ago, but I was afraid to touch it because of the sister was so emotional, like, African, why don't you understand what is on this side? This side is not what you think. Things are happening, but you feel it that they're happening, but you won't see them. So I just put my 2 cents on this video. And
in America, our racism is overt. They try to dog whistle it every once in a while, but it's overt. You can see from the numbers, you can see from the way Black people are treated. It's overt here. Where colonialism existed, it's insidious and it's silent. You don't really know that it's there, but you know, it's like you feel like the frog in the water, where the heat is turning up slowly. You don't know what it is, but you're feeling uncomfortable. So that it's so much easier for you to sit on the internet and talk about what you would do in America, fantasizing about the rights and the privileges that have been gained off the backs of the same people that you disrespect.
Thank you so much for watching. Kindly subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that you can be notified whenever I upload a video. Like the video so that it can also distribute it to many people, and share the video to your loved ones. And don't forget to leave your comment down below in the comment section so that we can continue with the discussion down there. So see you on my next one. Bye bye and bye.